Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you're watching Save Today with Heather J. I've been gone from this space for a few months, in all honesty. And today I wanted to talk about where I've been, what's been going on, some of the changes I may be making as we go forward. So there isn't going to be any actual budgeting in this video today. I generally, when a person steps away for the length of time I have stepped away, there is a big confession video. I have a confession to make. And that's not the case with me. I did stop filming, but I did not stop budgeting. So I want to talk about why I quit filming and some of the thought processes and changes that have happened along the way of my continuing to budget, and kind of where I'm at now financially, as well as some of the changes I feel like I need to make as far as videos and posting and things like that. So what happened? I'm not 100% certain when I last posted. I had gotten to a point where I was filming but hadn't released my videos. I was very behind schedule on releasing my videos. And I had probably, 4 or 5 videos that I had filmed and not posted. And then I got to a point where I wasn't even filming. I was just doing the budgeting. And life kind of stepped in the way for me. A couple of things. It was over the holidays. I work in retail, and the holidays get crazy in retail, and I was doing a lot extra, and I found myself being very tired, and it was hard to be upbeat on these videos. I would listen to the playback and I would sound tired and I would sound bored, and it wasn't something that was pleasant for a listener to listen to. YouTube is a space that we have to be very upbeat in, and I just didn't have the energy to create that upbeat. Additionally, as I've gone along this journey, I have been able to make some changes in my spending habits, and some of my videos, like my weekly spending check-in videos, had gotten very, very small. And you may know that I stopped kind of doing week 2 and week 4 spending check-ins because there wasn't any money left to spend at that point. And so I was kind of wrapping that in with my monthly or paycheck closeouts. And then ultimately I got so physically burnt out that I ended up taking myself to the emergency room. And I have not been on my blood pressure medication for a very, very long time because I move a lot, because insurance has been difficult to get transferred over. It's been a much more challenging transition in this move than it has been in moves past. And I just didn't get a doctor in time, didn't get my insurance changed. So it was a very, very long time of being without my blood pressure medication. Any of you who are familiar with that know that that can be a problem, and it did become a problem. And I was kind of self-medicating by taking some water pills, and that helped for a while, and then it didn't. And eventually I ended up not being able to sleep one night. Just every time I laid down, I couldn't breathe, and I was quite certain that it likely was my blood pressure. But I do know if blood pressure is not taken care of in the way mine had not been taken care of, that can cause some heart problems, and that can cause some stroke. And so more than anything, that's why I took myself to the emergency room, was because I was concerned I was having or was about to have one of those 2 major events. Literally did not get any sleep. Every single time I laid down flat, I instantly could not breathe. It was quite frightening. Ultimately, at that point, my blood pressure was 201 over 138. If you know anything about blood pressure, that's extremely high. You should be below 120 over 80, I think. I'm not sure what that second number really is supposed to be, but I was well beyond all of that. But no heart attack, no stroke, nothing like that. I had, prior to taking myself to the emergency room, actually already scheduled an appointment with a primary care physician. I was trying to get that taken care of. It just was a little bit too little too late. So I have since gone to that primary care physician, and we are doing a lot of testing and procedures and things like that, partly to make sure that there isn't anything underlying, partly because I'm a heavyset woman, and people who are overweight tend to have health problems that underweight, you don't have when you're underweight. Every doctor that sees me wants me to be diabetic because I'm large. Every time we check my diabetes, my A1C, I am in fact not. But there's also some things we have to do because of my age. So that has been the focus. There's been a lot of testing. Right now, the only thing we've been able to find is still the blood pressure. The medication they put me on has me extremely tired. Like yawning in your face while we're having a direct conversation, completely apathetic, so tired. So I still am not feeling 100% better. And I still am having some times where I have to sleep slightly elevated. So that has been the crux of where I've been and what's been going on. I 100% have still been budgeting, and I'll pull that book aside and show you. I don't even know where the last video I posted was. I believe that may have been sometime in October, but I definitely was filming all through October and into some of November. And I did my book all the way through November, December, January, and I've now set up my February budget. So none of that stopped. I just did not have the ability to be filming. So real quick, let's take a look at kind of what was going on and what has happened. So I don't know where I was at in my October budget, but I did finish out very much on where I was expecting to be when I finished out November. This is pretty normal. I was a little bit under by $19. All of my bills got paid, and then at the end of the month, I just had one thing in collections in that library bill that was due. As we got into November, so one of the things I had paid in September, I believe, was a partial payment that was considered paid and done. My brain is not catching the right term right now, but I had received a letter from that creditor saying my bill was paid, and then I was still showing up on my credit report that I owed $99. So I thought that I still needed to pay that $99 in order to get that off my credit. And so when I closed out November, I did add that back in there, but I was able to get that cleared away. So I don't owe that, thankfully. And then this collections, I did finish that. I paid that out for $200, and that $274 was still showing up on my credit report. So I have since filed a claim with my credit report, and that has come off. So that's been taken care of. So when I finished out December, I had nothing new in my debt. So by December, I had completely paid off all of those debts I've been working for since April. So that's fantastic. Unfortunately, the last week of November is when I took myself to the emergency room. So I got everything paid just in time to now have a hospital bill that I have to make payments on. And that's fine. I've made arrangements on that. And we'll be getting that taken care of. So as far as my weekly paychecks were going, I did really good with the exception of paycheck number 3 in November. And I just wanted to draw attention to that. Paycheck number 3 was my fun paycheck, my play paycheck. It was my extra one. And I had every intentions of getting all of my debts paid off in this paycheck. As you can see, none of the things that I thought I was going to pay in my fixed expenses actually got paid. And that's because I went way overboard on my flexible spending in paycheck number 3. Now, partly that's because that was Thanksgiving, and partly it's because I was working so hard and I didn't have, I spent way more in grocery and dining out than I have in a long time. But I also spent a whole lot here in miscellaneous, and that was necessary but not necessary. But in December, I did some returns and got some of this back. So as we look at December, this is the month, November to December. This is when I realized, this video is so choppy, you guys. I'm so sorry. In this time frame, I became aware that I was writing my budget at $1,188.45, $1,188.45. That's my 38 hours times, that's my 2-week estimate. But I was very much counting on and using all of the extra that was coming in above and beyond my paychecks. And so as we left November and went into December, I decided that what I needed to do was really live within my estimate, right? I needed to live within the $1,188.45 I was setting myself up, and I needed to immediately take away any of that extra and set it into savings. But as soon as I wrote my schedule or my budget and tried to pay this extra stuff that I still had left because I didn't finish it in November, I quickly realized that I was not going to get this paid off. I would not have been able to pay off any of my other stuff if I didn't have that extra coming in. So as soon as I got that taken care of, I began setting that aside. And that happened mid-January. So as we close out December, my first paycheck, you see I have one savings. This is in one savings account. This is a check I received from a class action suit against a bank I had been banking with before. So that's extra money I wasn't counting on. It's money I didn't need for my bills, and I immediately put that into savings. And then this here is my other checking account, and I just moved whatever little bit I had left at the end of that paycheck. The day before my next paycheck came in, I moved that over. So right here in December, right at the end, I was able to start saving a little bit. And up until this point, that has not been able to happen. So you see, as we leave December and head into January, I had no debts, and I was able to finally start some saving. So that's fantastic, and that's huge. But here we're still battling my credit report, and I have not at this point been able to get those two things off of my credit. So then as we moved into January, I don't think I had anything really to talk about January except to say, look, I really was still doing all of the things. And here, one of the changes I'm making, man, I wish I wasn't so choppy. I was trying to look back on some of my other things, and once I didn't know what my other incomes were here when I went to go look back at that. Was that because I was being paid something, somebody was paying me back? Was that my taxes coming in? Was that a check I wasn't aware of? Was that an overpayment? So I have decided that if I have other income, I'm going to write over on this side what that was. If I have other fixed expenses, I'm going to write over here on what that was. So in this example, in January, I received a bill for $3.83 from radiology that I was able to pay. I received, and I had 2 doctor's visits that I needed to pay $25 copays on. Those weren't already in my fixed expenses, and I don't want those to be in miscellaneous. But once it's $53.83, I don't know what this is when I come back to that, and I wanted to know what that was. So now I'm going to start carrying those others over here. And then you'll see here, my paycheck was a little bit more. And then I got, oh, I did have to pull $100 from savings. Oh, and that's because, well, anyway, that's because of some medical stuff I had to have taken care of. So that's kind of what changed for me December to January. Then I want to talk about this here. I'm going to be making some changes and not filming my spending overviews. Those are all going to be wrapped up into my monthly closeouts, because what kind of video is this where I had one transaction? So I'm going to pull that out where I'm not doing as many videos, and they will probably be longer and hopefully a little more focused than this one is being. Again, here I have some things in other, and I needed to know what the breakdown on that was, so I pulled them over here. I had a bill for $6.66 for some sort of testing diagnostics. I don't know. I owed it. I paid it. And then this ER Physicians for $70.17. I needed to create the other to be able to take care of those immediately and not wait to add them in and then wait to pull them out. But I still need to know what's where and how that breakdown is. And then again, I finish out this paycheck with $105 left over. And so as we close out January, which is really where we're at now, I do have this hospital bill for $931. I did call and I did make a payment arrangement, and that arrangement is likely going to start in either at the end of February or the beginning of March. And then as far as my desires go, nothing there has changed except that I finally have a price on my 3-way mirror. I did some research and I found, and that's a lot of money, $700. So I will continue to look. I'm certainly not in a place to buy anything like that now, but in order to have accurate totals there, I did that. And then in my savings, I was able to finish out the month of January with a combined total of $262 in my savings. So this is huge for me, and this is new, and this is something that happened during the time that I wasn't filming but was still budgeting, and that's great. And then as far as my credit score goes, I think I'm at the point where I'm going to stop saying exactly what my credit score is. What I will tell you is that I'm somewhere here in fair, and I have not yet climbed over to good. And so that is where I'm at. We will, in my next video, which may probably be tomorrow, go ahead and set up my month of February, because that's currently where we're at, and I want to get back into this. So that is all I have to tell you about my budgeting. I just wanted to come on here and let you guys know that I'm still here and I'm still working the budget, and things are improving. And so we're going to move on from that. The other thing I do is I have a project that goes on in my background, and I'm changing a little bit what I'm going to do with that as well. I had been picking and planning a project with the hope that this was going to take exactly the amount of time that my monthly budgeting was doing. And sometimes that worked out really well, and sometimes it did not. There were a couple of months where my project was done significantly fast. Well, 1 month where my project was done faster, and I was still filming videos and just having to re-talk about the same thing on my project, and I didn't like that. And so then another month I knew these weren't going to take long, so here's these 3, and that last project did not actually get done in time, and so I stopped that one. And then I began working on things I was less excited to work on because they were going to fit the time schedule. I'm not going to do that going forward. I want to enjoy the work I do here. And I just want to move naturally from one project to the next. So if I finish early, a new project's going to start in. If I goes long, then it's going to go long. And I'm not going to worry as much about where I'm at in the space of this particular project as far as this video, this channel goes. This obviously is a budgeting channel. I wanted to bring in my own personality, my own joy, and my own creativity and make this my own. But I think that I'm going to still have it back here, still mention it back here. But I think the focus of my crafting project may, and I say may because I've not done anything yet, but that may move to a separate second channel that I just talk about my crafts and my projects and can get more in depth and focus just on that and have that be less rigidly tied into this channel. But that being said, what have I been working on? I haven't. I have quit working on projects at this point, and I have begun organizing my sewing room. I have mentioned in several videos in the past that I'm unpacking. Why the heck is it taking me so long to get unpacked? It was really bothering me that it's taking so long. And what I realized is it's taking me so long to unpack because a lot of what I'm unpacking aren't my things. What do I mean by that? I have told you I move a lot. In one of those moves, I had moved to my mother's house to help care for her at her end of life. I also was in school at that time, and I was going to school for fashion merchandising. And in that school, they had a donation counter where people could bring in, when they've lost a family member, all of the sewing related things. And then we as students get to dig through that free stuff. Well, I had managed to gather up an awful lot of that stuff during the time I was at that school. So I have a lot of things in my sewing space that were never my things and never had a place in my space. Additionally, when my mother passed, I ended up inheriting a lot of her and her mother's stuff, some of it furniture and a ton of books and a ton of crafting supplies. And so those things are now, oh, and a lot of kitchen supplies. So those things are now in my space and I'm now responsible for them, but I've never had a organization for them. And so it's taking a lot. And at this point, my sewing room looks like a hoarder situation. My bookshelves look like a hoarder situation. My kitchen has pots and pans spilling out all over the place. So once I realized that that's the holdup, I decided I have to start organizing these things. Some of the things that are the mess, that are making it look like a hoarding situation, are things I had purchased to tidy the sewing room. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm tidying the sewing room and I'm getting everything in its place. And I'm making things come out of those boxes and off of those shelves, and I'm getting them to look good. So, and that's kind of on trend right now. Everybody is, that's the January trend, is to let's all organize all of our spaces. Didn't mean to be that way, but that's the way I am. So just real quick to wrap this up, you may remember that I told you I store all of my fabrics in these plastic bags all folded up and nice. Well, I have a million of these plastic bags and a million boxes stuck all over the place. And quite frankly, I don't know what is all in them. And when I need to go grab something, I don't know where to go to find it. So in the past, like years ago, I had bought some comic book boards and some archival cardstock paper so that I could wrap my fabric around it. Pardon me. I've never done that. I just have these sitting waiting for someday when I'm going to do it. Well, someday's here. So I did start taking my fabric out of those bags and wrapping them on these comic book boards and folding them on this archival cardstock paper. And so things look lovely. I have it all out where I know where it's at, and it's no longer stored by project. At first, I did have to go buy some of these clips to hold that on there and a few other things in my organization. And at first I was kind of like, why are you spending money on these things? You're trying to not spend money on your art. And then, do you guys remember this project? Do you remember that this is a project my friend gave me, and I didn't have any more of this fabric? So I didn't have a backing and I didn't have a binding, so I had to figure that out, and I really scrambled. Guess what, you guys? Somewhere in my mess, I absolutely had some of this fabric. She gave me a few other Christmas projects, and this was wrapped up in there. If it had been out in my fingertips, if I could see it, I would have known it was there, and I wouldn't have had this problem. That's frustrating. So that was all of the justification I needed to continue working on that. I have a couple of other things I'm working on that are organization related, and I'm spending money in my art category more than I'm budgeting in my art category right now, because I have made this a priority. And that, my friends, is where I'm at. That, my friends, is what I've been doing. And I'm back, and things will look different in a couple of different ways. But for today, because that was far too long-winded, that's enough. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.